Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game schedule for Monday, August 1st, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Now, if you're looking for my MLB best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Of course, I'm always running my $15 MLB best bet, so you can check that out at Pick Dawgz Premium. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Monday, August 1st. First up, we see a 6:40 Eastern start time between the Cincinnati Reds and the Miami Marlins. A pair of young pitchers going at it here in Hunter Green and Jesus Luzardo. Now, there's no official lineup for this game, so we could see a pitching change, but if these are the starters, I am going to take the Miami Marlins here on the money line. You know, Jesus Luzardo was pitching pretty well in the major league level before he went down with that injury. He had a few starts before his injury that he struggled in, including that Arizona Diamondbacks start back on May the 10th, where he gave up those 4 earned runs and 4 walks in 2 2/3 innings. But overall, he was striking out some batters at a pretty low ERA as well. Just a home run ball and the walk sometimes an issue, but not giving up a ton of base hits. And like I mentioned, missing a lot of bats with the strikeout stuff. Now, Hunter Green has really good strikeout stuff himself, and he's also had some big-time issues with the home run ball and walks. Now, last time out against the Marlins, Hunter Green faced this Marlins lineup, 6 1/3 innings, 9 hits, 2 earned runs, and the 9 base hits does concern me. The Fish were able to win that game 2-1, and now Green, in his last 5 starts, the Reds have lost 4 of those 5. I think the Marlins being at home here, I'm going to lean towards them on the money line. Not really a big fan of either of these teams right now. The Marlins offense is certainly struggling to get things done, but I do think they have the better pitching staff. I trust their starting pitcher a little bit more as well. So give me the Miami Marlins here on the money line. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Washington Nationals. We're going to see Mad Max Scherzer returning to D.C. to take on the Nats, going up against Patrick Corbin. Now, to me, this is as lopsided a pitching matchup you're going to see all season. We saw Patrick Corbin really struggle last time out against the Dodgers. Wasn't even able to get out of the first inning. He went 2/3, so he got 2 outs, gave up 7 hits, 6 earned runs, no strikeouts, obviously, only 1 walk allowed, but it is a tough one to watch if you were a Corbin backer, and he has given up 4 earned runs at least in his last 4 starts against the Braves, twice, the D-backs, and now the Dodgers. The Mets, we saw them have a hit parade on Sunday as they had a ton of base hits early on in the game. They scored plenty of runs as well. 19 total base hits by the time the game was over. They knocked Pablo Lopez out of the game very, very early, and this Mets lineup is very, very strong from top to bottom. They did all that damage even without Eduardo Escobar and Starling Marte, 2 everyday starters out of the lineup in that one. So with those guys getting rest days and should be back in this one, I like the Mets to run up the score here. You look at Mad Max Scherzer, he's got a 2.09 ERA, a 6-2 record. The Nationals are struggling offensively, especially with runners in scoring position. That's really been the key all season for them, and I think Scherzer can hold them down and earn a nice Mets victory on the road. So give me the New York Mets here on the run line. In our next matchup, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the New York Yankees. 7:05 Eastern start time. Marco Gonzalez and Domingo Germán are your projected starters. Now, to me, I do like the Yankees, but I don't love this price. I think the Mariners have shown that they deserve a better price than this. I mean, they are a well above 500 team. They are playing pretty good baseball. They have struggled against the Houston Astros, but really any other team than Houston, they have dominated in the month of July. And the Yankees, they did struggle quite a bit on Sunday in terms of their bullpen, and their starting pitching rotation hasn't been the strongest either, Domingo Germán included. He's got an ERA above 8. Now, he hasn't had a lot of work this year at all, but he still hasn't looked very sharp in the few innings or the few outings that he's had at the major league level. In his first 7 2/3 innings this season, giving up 7 earned runs and 3 home runs. I did like that he had 7 strikeouts against the Mets last time out, but still, I'm not sure. I think he is the weakest link of this Yankees rotation right now. And with the way the Mariners' bats have been competitive as of late, I think Seattle will score some runs on Germán and the Yankees' bullpen as well. On the other side, though, I do think this is going to be a very tough spot for Marco Gonzalez. He's facing a Yankees lineup that's just crushed left-handed pitching. They crushed Chris Bubic in that Royals series, and they're number 1 in team OPS in the last 30 days against lefties with a 967 team OPS. Number 1 in isolated power with a 250 isolated power. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. I like the Yankees team total over, and I also like the full game over as well. Next up, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Cleveland Guardians. We're going to see Zach Davies and Cal Quantrill as your starters. This is going to be the first start for Zach Davies since June 25th. He was placed on the 15-day IL with a shoulder injury. His last start against the Tigers, he went 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, and 2 strikeouts. So that was a 6-3 D-backs loss, and the Diamondbacks have lost 4 of the last 5 starts that Davies has had. You know, the Guardians are playing pretty good baseball. They split the series in Boston at Fenway. They took the series on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays, so pretty good road trip for Cleveland overall. They also split that series in Chicago. And now they come back home when they're looking pretty good. And you look at their, right now, right in the mix in the American League wildcard standings. And these are the type of games they're going to have to win. Now, Cal Quantrill, I do think the Diamondbacks will be able to find a few runs on him. He's given up some home runs recently. His last start against the Red Sox, giving up those 2 homers and 5 earned runs. But Cleveland's offense is just in a really good spot here. They're facing Davies, his first start back in over a month, and it's going to be a tough one against a Guardians lineup that doesn't really strike out much. They're going to make you pitch to them, and they're going to be on base quite a bit. And I think when you got guys like Jose Ramirez and Owen Miller in the middle of that lineup that have been so good with runners in scoring position, it's just tough here for this Arizona. For Zach Davies, he's probably not going to pitch too deep in this game, maybe 4 or 5 innings at the most. And the Diamondbacks bullpen, one of the weaker pens in baseball, while the Guardians have the bigger upper hand there, as they have had one of the better bullpens in baseball. So, to me, I think the advantage goes to Cleveland in almost all aspects of this game, and the price you're laying isn't too shabby. So, I do think the Diamondbacks, they've been a very profitable dog, one of the more profitable ones this season on the run line and the money line, but this is just not their spot. Give me the Cleveland Guardians here on the money line. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Minnesota Twins. Tarek Skubal for the Tigers, no official starter for the Twins. A little bit of a tricky game to handicap with not knowing who the starter is for Minnesota, but I'm going to take the under in this game. Tarek Skubal's last start against these Twins, very sharp, 7 innings of shutout baseball with 6 strikeouts. And although the Twins have been good against lefties in the last 30 days, they didn't do much against Sean Manaea. And overall, I thought they looked a little bit sluggish against the Padres on Sunday. Now they have to make a pretty big trip back to Minnesota from San Diego to Minnesota, so not the best spot for them. On the other side, Detroit's going to have to go through the border from Toronto back to Minnesota, which is also not the easiest trip to make. And the Tigers' offense hasn't been very good this season. We saw them only score a run on Sunday against the Blue Jays, and I think this is going to be an overall low-scoring contest. So I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to lean towards it without knowing who Minnesota is starting here, but I do think it's a solid play. Give me the under in the Minnesota Twins Detroit Tigers game. In our next matchup, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Houston Astros with Nathan Eovaldi and Luis Garcia as your projected starters. And there's been some rumors that the Red Sox may be selling a few of their veterans. JT Martinez and Nathan Eovaldi are included in those rumors. Eovaldi has struggled recently. You look at his last 2 starts, giving up 4 earned to the Guardians, giving up 9 earned to the Blue Jays. That was that 28-5 Red Sox loss. And he faced this Astros lineup back in Fenway Park earlier in the year, and it was one of the worst starts in his career. He gave up 5 home runs in an inning and 2/3, 6 earned runs, 9 total runs in that one, and there was a 13-4 Astros victory. Houston has been crushing right-handed pitching, and Eovaldi with his struggles and the Red Sox bullpen struggles as well, it's just tough to back him here. The Astros are big-time favorites, but they've been one of the better home teams this season. They played very well against the Mariners this weekend, and I think Houston wins this game pretty comfortable. So I'm going to take the Houston Astros here and lay the 1.5 runs. In our next matchup, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Texas Rangers with Spencer Watkins and John Gray as your starters. Now, we're already starting to see the regression from Spencer Watkins as of late. After a really good first half of the season, he gave up 10 base hits and 5 in the 3rd innings against the Rays. Now, he only gave up 3 earned runs and a home run in that one, but the Rays left plenty of runners in scoring position and on base in general. I don't think that's going to be the case for the Texas Rangers. They've had pretty good numbers at home against righties this season. And I think against Spencer Watkins, a starter who's got a 4.03 ERA, but a 5.42 expected ERA, a 5.05 expected FIP, very, very low strikeout rate this season. I think the Rangers can get to him. And when you look at the Orioles bullpen, although it's been pretty good overall this year, A, it hasn't been nearly as strong on the road, and B, it was overworked on Sunday. It was a close game for the O's against the Cincinnati Reds, so they put all their big-time relievers in to try to keep the game tied or try to get the win, and they weren't able to do that in that game, but since they use a lot of those relievers, I do worry about their bullpen availability in this particular spot, so I'm going to take the Texas Rangers team total over 4.5 runs in this one. Our next matchup, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Chicago White Sox. Brad Keller and Michael Kopech are your starters. Now, similar to last pick, I'm going to take a team total, this time the Kansas City Royals team total over. Michael Kopech's had some issues with the free passes this season. He already gave up 4 free passes against the Royals, 4 walks back on April 28th. The only start he's faced them in 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 4 walks. The Royals wind up scoring 5 runs in that ball game, and I think they could score a similar amount in this one. We saw the Royals offense show up in that Yankee game on Sunday as they poured on 8 runs against the Yankees. Pretty tough pitching staff that New York has this season, and they were able to get to that bullpen. They got to Jordan Montgomery, and I like them to get to Michael Kopech. You know, his strikeout numbers haven't been the best this year at times. We saw him only have 4 Ks and 5 1/3 against the Rockies last time out, only 2 Ks against the Minnesota Twins back on July 15th. So the Royals, they do a pretty good job of limiting strikeouts themselves. They get on base at a solid rate, and against right-handed pitching in the last month or so, not the worst numbers when you compare them to the beginning of the year where they really struggled offensively. I think Kansas City can score some runs on Kopech, add a few on the bullpen as well. I like their team total over 3.5 runs in this one. In our next matchup, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the San Diego Padres with Antonio Senzatella and Mike Clevinger as your starters. Now, this is a really bad spot, in my opinion, for the Colorado Rockies. And you guys know I do like to fade teams that are playing their first game away from Coors Field after playing a series at Coors Field with no day's rest. And that's going to include the final 2 games of this Monday card. And the Rockies are the first team to do it. We're going to see Senzatella, who's given up a good amount of base hits this year, 1.74 whip. Even though his ERA isn't too bad for a Coors Field pitcher, he still gives up a lot of base runners. Strikeout numbers are picking up for him a little bit, but not enough for where I would want to take him in this spot. And the Colorado Rockies offense, I think, is going to really struggle against Clevinger and one of the better bullpens in baseball. Clevinger's last start against the Tigers, 7 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, good enough for a Padres win and run line cover. And, you know, the Rockies offense against right-handed pitching on the road, something that I faded quite a bit this season, and especially on their first day away from a Coors Field series, I think it's really going to struggle. Even though Colorado's scored plenty of runs this season overall against righties and against righties on the road, that's where they particularly struggled the most. In the last 30 days, their offense is in the bottom 15 in team OPS and isolated power, and I think that the Padres earn this victory and earn it pretty comfortably. So give me the San Diego Padres here, laying the 1.5 runs. I think this is just a really beneficial spot for San Diego at home. In our next matchup, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the San Francisco Giants. We're going to see Andrew Heaney and Logan Webb as your starting pitchers. Now, like I just mentioned, I do like fading teams on no day's rest after a Coors Field series, and that's going to be the Dodgers here. And I think you're getting plus money with the home dog. Might as well. When you look at San Francisco, they've crushed left-handed pitching. They've struggled against righties, but they've done very well against lefties. Top 3 in isolated power in the last 30 days. Top 3 in team OPS. Now, Andrew Heaney's had a good season so far, but he hasn't had a lot of innings, and we've seen in years past Andrew Heaney really struggle. Last year was one of the worst in his career, so I'm not too sure how long he'll be able to pitch like he has with a .47 ERA. Obviously, there is some regression to worry about. How much? That's going to be the question. But with San Francisco hitting lefties very well, and with Logan Webb, although he struggled at the beginning of his last start against the Dodgers back on July 22nd, he was able to settle in very nicely, and I was able to watch that start. He had a really tough time in the beginning of the game. He walked the bases loaded, gave up a run there, but he ended up going 6 innings, only giving up that 1 earned run. So he was very impressive in that outing. I think against the Dodgers lineup, it's not going to have any rest from that Coors Field series. The altitude change is a big deal for this team, especially a team that's not used to it, unlike the Rockies. I think this is a good spot to take San Francisco. This may be the only game that they win in this series, but I'm going to take the San Francisco Giants on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Monday, August 1st. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.